Hi, thanks for joining in. This is Wendy Viverito, realtor in Indianapolis, Indiana, technically in a suburb called Westfield. Today, I wanted to talk to you about some interesting things going on in the market center, in our market, and this is nationally. So, we had the moratorium for evictions and foreclosures lifted. And in fact, the Supreme Court made a decision that they can't happen again. So, what that means is not political, just a fact. On March 1st, during COVID, on March 19th, our president stood up and said, until we understand what's going on with the pandemic, there can be no foreclosures, there can be no evictions. He wanted to make sure, with the government's backing, that everybody had a roof over their head. Fast forward, that has now been lifted. So, what does that mean? There are 3.6 million people that have loans in default. 3.6 million. Those are the people who just buried their head in the sand and didn't do anything. What we've recently discovered also is about 77% of those people could save their home. The banks don't want the homes back, they want you to keep your home. So, with the moratorium, there was a period where everybody took a deep breath. And now we're at that period where we're going to start seeing these houses come back on the market. What I want to talk to you about today is, are you one of that 3.6 million people who may go homeless? If so, let's talk. First and foremost, once again, 77% of you may be able to maintain your home. The first step I need you to do is the scariest step of all. I need you to call the lender. I need you to call the person who's controlling your mortgage and say, hey, have you started the foreclosure process? And if they say no, move back, stay in your home, see what you can do. The second question then becomes, I'd like to save my home. What can we do? I recently got a phone call from a client of a mutual friend. And he called and he's like, Wendy, I know you don't do much with rentals. However, our mutual friend asked me to call you anyways. So I took the call and I talked to him and I said, okay, what's going on? They were living in an apartment complex that was full of black mold. He actually has pictures of it. A contractor was hired to just put siding over the black mold and cover it. It was causing some health problems for his family. I'm like, okay, let's slow down then. According to records, I'm showing that you're still the owner, and we're just going to say 123 Main Street. Is that still your house? And they're like, yes, but we were told to move out because they were starting foreclosure. I said, okay, here's what I need you to do. The first step and the scariest step. I need you to call your bank, the person who owns your mortgage, and say, have you started foreclosure procedures? If they say yes, ask where they are in the process. And if they say no, ask, can I keep my home? And then once you make that phone call me. So he made that phone call and we talked a couple of days later. In his case, he had moved out of the house due to some bad advice. He moved out of the house, but they never started the procedure. So I said to him, you own that house, move back in. So over the weekend, we worked with utility companies to get all the utilities turned back on. His neighbors and such came over and helped because think about that vacant home. It's an eyesore to everybody. So the neighbors came over. They all helped cut his grass, get his landscaping caught up. And the following week, he moved out of an apartment with black mold into his home. And once he moved back into his home, could call the bank, take a picture, and say, yep, we're living in our home. Once again, the banks don't want to own the homes. They don't want them back. So they have an agreement where he's going to get a fixed interest rate, so he'll know his monthly payment. As long as he makes his payments for the next 3 months, and today he made his first one. When he makes those, then they're going to make this a permanent fix. So in other words, he could tell his son, Yeah, baby, you can unpack your boxes. We're staying here in your room, no black mold, and you'll graduate from high school with your friends. That's a great day. There's still 77% of you that could happen to. I know it's a hard call. I know it's scary, but you can do it. So call and see, has that bank started foreclosure procedures? And if they haven't, what can you do to get your home back? The hardest thing that everybody will agree is those vacant homes sitting in our neighborhoods. That's bringing everybody's prices down, increasing crime. So let's get rid of those. And then the same thing with the rentals. If you haven't been paying your landlord, you need to be making some arrangements. When the government installed this a moratorium, the hardest hit people were not the big banks, but it was the mom and pop investors, the grandparents who bought an investment home to pay for their grandkids' college, the people who took their money out of the stock market and bought long-term rentals. Those people are still making those mortgage payments whether or not the tenants are paying. And I'm still not sure what happened to this $40 million that were supposed to be there to help assist people, because it didn't seem to be happening. Don't become a victim of fear. Call the bank. Just ask them. We've got to get these homes filled. We've got to get everybody taken care of. We don't want 3.6 million families homeless. We don't. If you have any questions, reach out to your local professional. Your local realtor should be able to answer questions. And if they're not being a great resource for you, then call me. Once again, I have partners internationally. I will find somebody who will help you. And if you're in the Indianapolis area, that person will be me. Because everybody deserves a break and everybody deserves a home over their head. So let's see what we can do. The moratorium is lifted. Life is real now. Let's get it taken care of. Any questions? Give us a call.